call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Rashevsky.
Present.
I'm present. Mr. Deasy.
Present.
Mr. Houston is absent.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Public comments. Any public comments tonight? Okay. We should do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's do that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do we have
Absolutely. We'll do a pick.
Do you read it or?
Sure, do you want to?
Loyalty. Loyalty is staying true to someone. It is standing up for something you believe in without wavering. It is being faithful to your family, country, school, friends, or ideals when the going gets tough, as well as when things are good. With loyalty, you build relationships that last forever. You're practicing loyalty when you stand up for people and ideas you believe in. Choose your friends wisely. Are a faithful friend through good times and bad. Don't allow loyalty to lead you into trouble. Don't let others come between you and your friends. Are loyal to yourself. Affirmation: I am loyal to the people and ideas I care about. I stand by my friends and loved ones. I keep my commitments. Loyalty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to read the Board of Education guidelines. With an open mind, we will establish an atmosphere that allows expression of all views, even when views are not in line with all members, being respectful of time. We will work collaboratively with the district administrator. Am I reading the right one?
Yep.
By having open and honest conversations around district priorities. We will work collaboratively with all stakeholders to monitor key indicators so that equitable teaching and learning results in high achievement. We will work toward building a trusting environment where both students and staff can reach their full potential and celebrate success in academics, the arts, and athletics. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, number 4, any student or staff presentations this evening?
None.
Okay. That brings us to the CWSA update.
Hi, I'm Chris Martin. I'm the treasurer of the Governance Council for CWSA, and I'm giving the update for this month. I'll be very brief because I know Dr. Ripp is going to be speaking tonight on our behalf as well. Some of the highlights of CWSA Governance Council is we got our 501c3 nonprofit status officially approved by the IRS. And so the Finance Committee will be meeting within the next couple weeks and to talk more about the ramifications of that and what we can do going forward. We had a meeting earlier today for the Academic Excellence Committee, and I'd like to introduce Sharon Gutowski.
Sharon.
I'm Sharon Gutowski. I was recently elected to the Governance Council, and I'm the secretary, so I'll be the chair of the Academic Excellence Committee. I'm taking Susan Molinaroto's place. She's actually my supervisor, so I'm the DOMTAR representative on the Governance Council. I'm looking forward to serving the CWSA and helping them out any way I can.
Well, let's welcome you.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. And then we will come to administrative reports.
Well, and if I could start, I'd like to introduce Brian Grell, our new Director of Student Services from the whole. So we'll start out with him. Maybe you want to just, did you guys get a chance to meet him?
Yes.
Everybody did? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Go ahead. Well, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So you spent 3 days here last week and now officially started Monday.
Welcome to the district. Brian.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you.
So who would like to share administrative reports?
Well, I can share. Things are going well. We're out of Humke. We are officially, on June 3rd, we were out of the building. 4 o'clock, Ike took over and promptly shut the power down. And moved over to the high school, and things are going well. Off to all the summer, getting budgets in line and evaluations done, and I've got a goal I'm meeting with, my goal is to meet with each of the teachers at the high school this summer, and I've got, I think, six of the teachers I've met with. Fantastic one-on-one conversations with them, talking about where they, what brought them into education and where they are, what they see the high school needing, what they need from me as a principal, what they believe the high school needs. And so those have been very good conversations. We had today a meeting with the special ed grant and all kinds of things going on. Last week, social justice conference, which was a very successful endeavor. And so that's about it.
Thank you very much.
Pat, you got your report now?
Your administrator had it. Yeah, no, that's okay.
Commissioner Khan?
The year ended in good ways, good graduation, end of the year finals and stuff. My evaluations are complete. I'll get the final paperwork over to you tomorrow. My last boxes of belongings are leaving the high school office tomorrow, and Keith will have full opportunity to move in. Tiffany already informed me that she wasn't moving his boxes in, so he'll have to do his own.
It's quite ready, though.
We'll
So
help you, Mr.
at
Johnson.
the middle school today, this afternoon, Clint and I and others did some interviews for science teacher.
Thank you, Mr.
Nathan?
Just no, things are moving forward. I was about to say at a slower pace now that the school has ended, but I was just sort of thinking of the, this has now been the 7th day since classes have ended, and I've only spent one of those days not in almost a full day or a half day of meetings with one teacher or another over the course. And so the staff has really been still gearing up for next year. There's a lot of excitement coming out of particularly the Social Justice Institute that we attended, and sort of forming just a lot of ways of how we're going to approach next year in ways that work for everybody and help us position ourselves. And there's really a lot of excitement of going into summer in the sense that you at least feel that you have time. Catch up to us in August to see how much that feeling keeps. But there's a lot of optimism associated with that, and looking forward to the work we'll be doing this summer.
Yeah, lots of plans for the summer.
Well, it's June, and I've been told I've been getting cranky, and I have been. It's getting bad. I will be this way probably till the end of August. So things are going great.
We throw a little water on it. Mr. Rogers, do you have anything from the middle school that you want to share? Mr. Sprain is at a college visit.
Yep.
So,
I just want to say that when I moved stuff from one office to the next, I found little notes that John had left about what this is and where this goes and what this could be used for. And I felt like, I told Michelle today, I felt like a college kid that moved into a spot that my dad had left or something, and he left me little guidance tips on there. So,
well, Mr. Cum, I'm sure is going to be expecting that same thing. Not so.
he didn't get that.
All right.
Keith did though at the high school.
Yes. Good. Well, I just wanted to add, last week we had a National Social Justice Institute and Equity Conference here at the Community Center. We had over 100 people show up. Brian had a chance to spend a few days, but educational equity, I'm just going to read how we've defined it in our adult learning frameworks. And that educational equity is a measure of achievement, fairness, and opportunity in education. Educational equity is dependent on two main factors: The first is fairness, which implies that factors specific to one's personal conditions should not interfere with the potential of academic success. The second important factor is inclusion, meaning that all students have access to age-appropriate, regular classes and are supported to learn, contribute, and participate in all aspects of life at school. So we had, there was approximately 30 from Nekoosa, 30 from Mauston, Baraboo was represented, Marshville was represented, and Wisconsin Rapids. So it was a really great conference. Lots of compliments from the conversations, the group work that we did. It was well received by all. So we're excited to see where that goes. Next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the admin team will be down in the Dells, continuing to have conversations about that, and then the strategic plan and how we're moving forward in the district. So good stuff. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We next have the Nexus Project Contingency Funds. One question I would ask, would you like to move this presentation forward for any reason, or we're okay to go ahead?
Dr. Ripp, are you okay with that? It's about a 5-minute presentation in front of you yet.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to get into the Nexus Project Contingency Funds.
All right, clock's ticking.
5 minutes.
So hopefully I'll have the spreadsheet in front of you. It kind of really lays out where we are today. All contingencies wrapped up. As we sit here today, we're at $350,196. We feel that working with the administration, that some of these items that are on our priority list should be executed now so we can get them done for you and not interrupt students next fall. If you'd like, I'll walk through these 12 items we have in this list and why we selected the ones we did. The first one is the Humke Room 141. There was right now you had a divider wall that was constructed, and it wasn't really a good wall.
I was wondering how you
It was a 2x4 wall that had gaps in the top and bottom. So we chose to rip that out, but the district also wanted to use it as office space. So we would recommend modular walls where it can be give you a lot of flexibility for the future. Right now we're estimating that cost at $10,000, and that would come out of the contingency funds. The item number 2 on our list was the Humke IT cooling. We found out from the IT department that they were going to add some switches into the current room, and those really need to be backed up with cooling. However, we're not asking for approval today because it is something we can add at a later date. It's not going to change the cost. These are hard costs that we had from contractors written up by our design teams to go after. So we would hold off on that at this point. Just a note, when we say this point, we'd like to be back in front of you in July, just so we can get another 30 days of construction passed. We did a lot of opening up the building. Demo is mostly done. We're already pouring back the chiller foundation wall, and it'll be backfilled tomorrow. So we've got a long ways. Not a lot of surprises at all, really, so far. So yeah, when we sat down here, even 14 days ago or 12 days ago with the administration, it was we had a lot of progress, obviously, in 12 days. So it's good to hear that we haven't ran into anything. So moving along with that, option 3 and 4 are really just the same, with the difference being a stainless steel countertop versus a PLAM countertop. And the district thinks that a stainless steel countertop in the fax area of the high school is a better solution for them. That price is the $47,275. We did some checking actually a few hours ago, and that's about a 6 to 7 week lead time for that countertop, so we would be able to get that in before the start of school. The high school area, the storage area room modification, that's also in the fax area in consumer science, and that really is just moving some walls around, tearing them down, and those are hard numbers from the Omen construction. By the way, I put a plug in for them. They've been very good to work with, and I think they've done the school a lot of good things for you. So come in low and both years. So the high school library district carpet replacement. Part of that is the carpet your feet are on right now, and these are hard numbers. And then the district library, we knew last year, closed up the high school, that library carpeting was in pretty rough shape, so it's high on the list. Again, we do it now. We do it when I don't know if the high school library is being used, actually. I don't know. Do we know that? But,
No, it's not.
okay.
It's ready to go.
So again, we could get in there with very little disruption. Then also the high school library furniture is in pretty rough shape. It wasn't slated to be changed out, but we've got a pretty good estimate from our interior design consultant. And I think $35,000 would be a not to exceed number that we'd be asking for from the board. The number 8 was the Humke Room 140. There was some discussion through staff and administration of possibly making that room like 141, item number 1. At this point, it doesn't seem like a good item to chase, I guess. It was kind of taken off our list. Not that it couldn't be added later, but at this point, it's on the list. Number 9, this really falls into we don't need to make that decision right now. We have an energy wheel at the middle school that our commissioning team found that doesn't work. It's actually bent. Probably be something you guys would be looking at to do. We're getting pricing from the manufacturer, but again, it doesn't matter if we do it now or later on. The exhaust in the boiler room, there's an exhaust fan that also during commissioning was found. Pretty inexpensive to do, but again, it doesn't have to be decided tonight. And that's something also that the district could self-execute or be up to you guys, but we can talk about that more later. And then we do have some commissioning that will go on, obviously at Humke, and some from last year. We'd be looking at that report to possibly address, but again, it can be addressed later. The middle school door seals, there are doors over there that have air leaks in them. Again, it's not going to change whether we do them now or later, and that could be something the district could self-execute if they chose to. There's the district office athletic field ADA bathrooms. Really, we had the design teams come out and tell us how to make them ADA approved. They are not currently, so we have a drawing. It's really just toilet partitions, and then the entrance to get in have to be widened out. We've got that out for bid right now. We don't have hard numbers, but we estimated that to be a $20,000 add to the project. Again, the district office of that field doesn't matter if we do them now or in the fall. And then the big one, number 12, would be to do the building envelope, which is the exterior of the building. We did this last summer at Chilton Schools. We basically had 4 inches of EFS, and if you've ever taken a walk around this building, it's in need of some attention. There's the CMU block on the behind the wall is really pitted, and something's going to have to be done with it soon, or it's just going to be deteriorate. So we think that would be something you guys want to address, but that is a big ticket item. $125,000 is what we have estimated, and that's probably the one we'll be coming back to you in July for, just so we can get it executed. Timing-wise, we do it probably the month of September, get all these guys out of Humke, and then Altman would probably give us the best price, but we're going to get multiple prices for that. So that total on what working with the district we've selected for tonight would be $411 that we'd be asking for approval today. That would leave $214,785 in contingencies that hopefully we'd be back in July with that number, or possibly even higher. There is things that are budgeted. We didn't run into a whole lot of abatement yet at the Humke. We did find some of the old cabinet unit heaters had VCT tile underneath, so we had to get that abated. That was a surprise to the project, but we don't have all costs in, I don't believe, but it's not going to be a huge hit to the project. Basically, they got to take it, and then they got to do air clearances on it. And, I think they'll be done within the week. So
here, that was just in a few rooms, wasn't it?
was in every room, but it was only under where the existing ventilators are sitting. So the longest part of it is the air testing. It takes about 2 hours per area to test the air. So the abatement portion is basically just picking up the tiles and disposing of them properly. So
It's about a 5 foot by 1 foot
yeah.
area.
Awesome.
One item that's not on the list and I think has been discussed is the carpeting in the band room at the high school.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Whitmore grabbed me today. We did some checking and we think that if we could add to the list tonight and with your approval, a not to exceed number of 20,000 would probably do that area. The board would approve that. I think it'll come in 15. I mean, we're doing this room and also the science room, or excuse me, the library for 32.
Yep.
So.
And that includes all the areas around the library too, the smaller offices and so.
Yeah, there is the band room does have the steps and there is more cutting. It's my understanding you like to go to VCT in that band room?
I think that was one of the discussion items, but you know, I think
You remember, Lynn,
administration-
the conversation about that with Alyssa last year?
I wasn't,
You weren't part of
no,
that?
I wasn't.
So we'd have to do some research on that. So that's something we could bring to the board in July.
Yeah. I mean, it comes to, yeah, I would think so. I mean, it depends what you choose for. You choose something with a longer lead time.
Yeah.
But typically, if you're going to choose standard school.
Amy, is it something that we want pricing on for the July meeting?
Yeah, we can definitely come back.
If we stay on the carpet, just, I know I mentioned it probably several months ago, but the desire to work with local businesses, vendors.
Freedom Carpeting is
Did we-
who
Did we?
who got
get
the library.
Okay.
And I've been working with them since, yeah, I mean, whoever brought it up, I've been working with them. They've been real good to work with, and they're who did the guidance office at the high school and that computer lab with the water damage. They did that work too and did a great job, so we've kept them on the bidders list, and so far they've been low, so.
Very good, thank you.
I also should mention that this was also approved for about a $75,000 mechanical upgrades. So that hasn't been approved by the board yet. Will be July or, when we think it's ready, we'll bring that back to you as well.
With the building envelope upgrades, the windows in this building.
That's included.
That's included.
Yep.
Very good.
So we're thinking that maybe the HVAC here could be all right yet. I don't know. So maybe that would be a savings.
Sure.
Becomes a priority. There was a study done where it got on a list and approved. We put it on a list and did all the in-depth research, years ago. And if the board decides that maybe the priority-wise is to attack the envelope first, that would be your decision.
And we talked about that in the July meeting.
Yep.
And I think one thing to note, our July meeting will be the third Tuesday of the month. We are shifting our meetings to the third Tuesday. One other question, and there are some issues that we're addressing from last year. And I don't know if any of those items should be up for review. I know that you're probably working closely with the administration. But if there are items of note, maybe we should bring those up in July as well. Sure. But I've heard great things about what's going on at the high school with regards to the upgrade to the ceiling, the repairing. So it sounds like things are going really good up there.
Yeah, that's quite a project. There's quite a bit of steel going up, so
Fantastic.
take a look at probably
I still have my hard hat from last year.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Yeah.
I've got it all.
Yeah, if you guys just give us a little bit of heads up, Mike will take you on a personal tour and give you a new hard hat.
I like my old one. Any questions on the items that have been selected on for approval for tonight's meeting?
Looks good to me.
Be looking for a motion then to approve the contingencies recommended. Items selected, number 1, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, guys.
Doing a good job, Bruce.
Yeah, looking good.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, the next thing we have is the Achievement Gap Reduction Program. This was in our board packet. This is kind of an, I think I'll turn it over to,
Should we go with
oh,
Dr. Ripa? Is that okay?
sure.
All right, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ripa. He's a consultant with Innovative Schools Networks, and he's had a variety of experiences with charter schools and education in general. So, Dr. Ripa, I'd like to turn it over to you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I've been a fan of, I know some of you and some of your work, and I've been a big fan of your work for years, so it's a pleasure to be here. I want you to know that I've been a teacher and a principal, and I love those roles. I also found that I worked for the Gates Foundation for years, going around developing schools around the country, and we began to see and take a look at things that were working and not working. That's when I got my doctorate in organization development, because I realized the tools we were using could be greatly, there could be value in seeing things from a business perspective as well as a traditional educational perspective. So when I come to you today, I'm going to share with you some tools that we use in the business world, as well as tools that we use in the educational world. Do you have in your board packet the summary research around the limits of growth?
This is what they have, Dr. Ripa.
Perfect. So I know through my experience that about half of you look at that and go, oh, okay, and the other half of you go, that's a nightmare. And that's okay. I'm going to guide you through it. It'll be okay. For those of you who want to have a reference, Peter Senge is a world leader in organization development. Schools That Learn is the systems theory that they use. So if you were looking for a reference on how that graph works, you could find it there. So I'm going to do a thing where I'm going to just share my screen right here really quickly. See if you can, because then I will. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. It might be a slightly different version that you have, but they should be comparable. So what was interesting for us is that we were creating schools around the country, and then we began to see that there were certain patterns that were happening, or things that were happening, whether you were a big city or a small town. And so what I did is I conducted a 3-year research piece on what were some of the effects, and this is what I'm going to go through with you now. I want you to know that throughout the years I've been working with schools, and more than 50 schools have validated this as an experience they actually went through. And a way to think about it is, if you were a district and you decided that you were going to bring in some different kind of school, it doesn't have to be a charter school, but another option into your portfolio of schools, this is what you might experience in that. So on the left-hand side over here is what we call the reinforcing or the amplifying effects. Whenever you have an organization, you always hope that you're going to have skilled staff that are aligned with the mission and vision. It's pretty much our standard. But how do you get there? What we found was the consistent things were that people would look at their mission and vision, and they'd update it annually with stakeholders. In other words, everybody took a look at it and said, is that really what we're doing? The marketing and recruitment was very consistent with that mission and vision. The hiring process includes an authentic experience with the pedagogy. The most successful schools we found were able to hire people who were interested in doing whatever it was the school was focused on doing, but people needed to have an actual experience with what it was they were going to teach. Because too often people would say, oh yeah, I love project-based learning, or whatever the thing is you're doing. And then they get into it as a teacher and realize, I hate this, or I don't want to do this. The staff hired are oriented to the vision, mission, and pedagogy. I'm going to come back to that later. But of course, right? And then we found that teacher leadership, democratic teaching and learning is established. In other words, there's a direct input that the teachers are having, and what's the best teaching we should be doing, and how can we influence that and work together as a team to figure that out. The professional development is organized by the staff, and that we found that when you have personal learning plans as adults, and they are presented with your peers and you have peer input, that's where we get the most growth. So these are the things that we found that were driving the highest performing schools we saw. Any questions on that side of the graph?
Thank you.
So when we come over to this side, this is the balancing feedback, or if you will, the stuff that holds down the school from preventing it from really achieving what it is it could do. And what's fascinating about this is that we found that the students and staff that were recruited were not in alignment with the mission and vision. And this was a huge piece, because most people across the United States, when you ask them about if you were to open a charter school in your district or some other school, it doesn't have to be a charter, it could be a program. Most people think you're going to recruit the cream of the crop. That's kind of when we talk with people, that's the impression people get. What we find in the research is actually every district that we took a look at, there was a portion of students and parents that weren't happy about the education they were getting. And so it didn't matter what school you opened or what services you offered, if it was STEM or whatever. People were running away from the existing option to the new one. And that created a lot of problems for this new school startup, because what happened is most often we ended up then with people who weren't in alignment with the mission and vision. And then the secondary factor that compounded it was most of these kids, they actually had remedial and equity issues that were outside of the norm. So if you think about tipping points, what happened is the staff would be all excited, ready to go, and then they'd get overloaded with a type of student and parent that wasn't ready for what they had to offer. Now, what ends up happening is that then that creates this delay in actually getting the school off the ground the way you want to. Now, teachers and administrative folks at the school, they often know what they need to do. But what ends up happening is you have limited time and limited resources. So what happens most often is that the school launches and they run into these challenges. And then what happens is, instead of the school board leaning in and having all hands on deck, they tend to step back and say, hey, look, why aren't you performing? the staff begin to become very concerned because often they have an agreement with the school district that says, well, the reason we brought you in was to improve our test scores or do X, Y, and Z. The challenge with it is now we're back here at this delay, right? And there becomes this growing fear of poor performance. And some of it's tied to funding, some of it's tied to reauthorization, some of it's tied to corporate monies that people get. Your 501(c)(3) will be a huge asset, by the way, because more and more people are getting this. So what happens, but it's all tied, it all has strings on it. In other words, people say, yeah, I want to see this with if I spend my money on it, this is what I want to get. So you have pressure now around the mission and vision to achieve on standardized tests. And so what that means is now you have staff who go, oh my God, we ended up with these students and these issues, and we need to start teaching to the test if we're going to stay in the game. So then you have polarization of staff. Some of them say, we got to start tomorrow or today. And other staff say, over my dead body. And then you end up having, instead of skilled staff aligned with the mission and vision, now you have polarization of staff, and you start to get this negative spin that influences the school. So this is a common occurrence that happens, and I think it's one of those that most of the literature and most of the research doesn't discuss. But like I said, I've found that in a large number of the schools that we look at. Questions?
So I guess, from your experiences, what is, how do you balance that out, and how do you ask the right questions so that you're guiding this new school in the right direction? Because certainly you want outcomes, right?
Yeah.
We've set up outcomes.
Perfect question. Thank you for asking it, because what we find is that we have to realize that in any school district, when I worked in this, I had to do a study in a different country, so they sent me to the Soviet Union. And I had to work in a school district in the Soviet Union. Fascinating. What I found is in the Soviet Union, they like to do they teach all their kids the same way. The same way. And whereas our research tells us that people learn different. And in the United States, what do? We create differences, and that's what gives us the edge. And so what I find is that, and my point of saying that, is that if we look at our district and say, look, we want to create a different option here, right? We want to be aware that what's going to happen is you're going to have a percentage of parents and kids that are going to come for the wrong reason. And so you need to counterbalance that. You need to really be proactive and market for that, and you have to plan for that. And so you want to make sure people are really coming for that educational opportunity you have. Now, I've been a teacher all my life. You teach with what you get, right? But you also want to not make the mistake of judging a school that has a disproportionate number of difficult kids on the same way you're rating it your other schools. You want to be able to look at it. In other words, you can't say, here's the standard for all our schools, and everyone has to reach that standard right there. And then when you have more difficult kids or a more difficult situation, and you don't provide the resources for that, that is the basis of equity. When you had talked about equity before.
Sure.
So what you want to do is, all you're saying is, let's do it on a growth basis. Let's measure it on growth. The other thing that happens is that when the school when the school gets into that situation, that's when you need to get everyone at the table doing their best work. Most of the time, boards and schools put all their stuff into the front loading before school starts, but there's always an implementation dip. You know, read Michael Fullen's work, and absolutely it's there. In other words, you'll start and then there'll be this huge dip. And then that's when the team needs to really rally and take a look at, okay, what do we need to do? Because you can prevent the much of the delay by responding quicker.
And we've seen some of this stuff with CWSA, so we've worked through some of the challenges that you bring up here.
The reason why I asked Dr. Ripper to come in and explain this is because this has an impact, and things that we talked about here, some of it we see in CWSA, some of it we see in Nekoosa, some of it we see with our virtual program. I mean, there's different things that tie into this model that I just think we need to be aware of. And we need to know that is, that's the reason why people go to some of these schools, because they're just frustrated, and it didn't matter what you opened, if it was a virtual school or a STEM school, or it doesn't matter. So I guess that's why I asked you to present, Dr. Ripa, because it resonates in different areas in different ways within our district here.
Makes sense to me. Thank you for sharing.
I have one last thing I'd like you to reflect on, if you can endure it.
You've got 1 minute.
So what happens is that school districts, they do a thing where they'll start a program like this, and then they'll come back and they'll say, gosh, we didn't get the results we wanted. Let's get rid of it. And what happens is there's all this money and investment. Like if you were a corporation and you were building something, you would never turn your back on your investment. And you'd be careful about it, right? Let me show you what happens. I made a quick graph. I don't know if you'll be able to read it, but let me see if I can walk you through it in my minute here. So this is over time, and this is if you're neutral about it, if you really love it, or if you hate it. Now, staff, when they start a new program, they're never too sure, but they very, very quickly become excited about it. Same thing with students, right? So students come in, and then they're confused because it's different, right? But over time, and then what we find is they really buy into it. Now look at this last one. Now let's say we hired a new curriculum director. I'm using an actual example from 2 districts across the nation where they hired a new curriculum director, and if we take a point in time, just take a point in time, right? The staff really are seeing great results, and they're ready, right? They're excited. Students are excited, but the new person who was hired is not excited because they haven't seen it and been around it long enough. And that's when the person says, "Guess what? We're gonna close the school and we're gonna open up magnet school or something." And so what I want you to reflect on is I've seen several districts turn their backs on millions of dollars of investment, unaware of this phenomenon.
Yeah.
So I thank you for your time. If you want to follow up with me, feel free, give me a call, give me an email. Love to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ripa.
See ya.
See ya.
Thank you.
I would like a copy of that chart, if you could email it. That is interesting.
I think the whole discussion, it kind of reflects our actual experience and, it really puts into words things that we've gone through over the last 3 years already. So, our thought processes that have gone through, so.
Well, and like I said, it's not just specific to CWSA.
No.
It's about our virtual, it's about our Nekoosa, it's about anything.
Co-teaching.
Yeah, any of that. And we've seen that in the classroom. You mentioned the co-teaching or co-planning, the co-serve, and you get 2 weeks in, it's not working.
Yeah.
Where, and when I was talking with Stacy Russell, one of our teachers, she was saying, well, this is kind of the place where you're in a point with your business. Do you mortgage your house to keep it going if you started this new business, or do you say, you know what, I'm not ready to do that. I'm just gonna let it go.
Yeah. Wow. Perfect timing, too, as we talk about, moving forward. Thanks for bringing Dr. Ripa to us.
Yes, thank you. We're going to jump back to Keith. Are you going to speak with regards to the
Yeah, there's, not a whole lot.
APR program? It's just kind of an outgrowth from changes in SAGE. And
That is correct. And so each of the grade level teams over the past several months had worked on, they created their goals. The strategy, like I put in the memo, will be the instructional coaching. That is going to be funded by going from 5 teachers at 3rd grade to 4 teachers at 3rd grade, which will put us out of line from 18 to 1, and move us to like 19 to 1, maybe 20 to 1 in a classroom. And so, asking for approval of these, almost said the SAGE the AGR contract for application by June 30th.
so with, increasing the class sizes, we're going to be providing some help or intervention.
Well, we have our interventions, already in the school, and I really think, and John and I had talked about it before, in that what we, in some ways, what we did at Humke was, and what we do at Humke is really cocoon families and children in an early learning center. And we've really been working on that notion of this is an early learning center, pre-K through grade 3. And we have 18 to 1, many times less than 18 to 1. It can be 15 to 1, 16 to 1, 18 to 1. And then at the end of 3rd grade, we send them off to 4th grade, where we all know, ratios have sat in the 24 to 28 to 1 range. And it's called Alexander Middle School. So one of the things I've talked with John before about is, boy, even just a name change would be helpful if it was Alexander School, because certainly at the end of 3rd grade, every year we would have, we have parents and students who get very nervous about, my child is not a middle schooler. No, you're right, your 3rd grader is not a middle schooler. That's just it's just Alexander Middle School. They do a great job of separating the grade levels, and then the other part is they drop into this from 18 to 1, 16 to 1, they drop into this 28 to 1. So in part, this will be a transition that I think will help at the 4th grade. So they'll go, 18 to 1, 16 to 1 in K2, and then to, probably 20, 20 to 1, maybe at some point 21 to 1. And then to 4th grade, where they're more in that 25 to 1, 26 to 1. It's not unusual. There are plenty of districts. In fact, I was talking with my sister-in-law, who my nephews attend Middleton Crosspoint, which is a great district. And, and they're in first grade classrooms of 25, 26 to 1. It's certainly not unheard of. And, in Nathan in Utah, you'd probably call a small class, 30 to 1? So.
Yep, like that.
So I mean, it's not, it certainly is done all over the place with class sizes much larger than what we would still have at home.
Keith, could you speak a little bit more to the benefit that you would be realizing from, as you're moving the funding to be able to a different model, what are the real benefits you're expecting from the new model?
Well, in that new model, as we've talked about before with the instructional coaching, that is really the spot where for greater gains now at this point at Humke, the instructional coach, and I know that, as a board you've looked at, and I know Terry has talked to you before about instructional coaches, the value of having that person who is there working, alongside teachers to help them grow in their instructional practice. That, I think, is going to be where we see a tremendous amount of growth. In an ideal world, we'd have 5 teachers at 3rd grade, and we'd have an instructional coach at every grade level. Lynn would have a
heart attack.
We gotta keep her at the hospital.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Keith.
This is, I think, a prudent way to do what is the next step for us for moving forward. It also should help with alignment between Humke and AMS, between 3rd grade, 4th grade, and those 2 schools. So I think that will be another advantage to it. But
And the grade
I don't know how
teams.
many advantages I'm at now, but then also moving to a 6-12 instructional coach, a literacy coach, will be another advantage to moving this model.
The grade teams are all in agreement with these expectations?
Yes. It took, they didn't jump up and down and say, sign us up.
They look to be,
And the research points in this direction too, so it's a chance for us to take a tiny step forward.
I will say that the 3rd grade team challenging, my thinking and Terry, all of our thinking on this really helped for us to come to a better resolution and a better way forward in terms of what it will look like. At Humke for next year, 2nd grade is our largest class by far, sitting at about 90 students. And the rest are in the 80 range. And so what we've done is one of the 3rd grade teachers will be moving to 2nd grade with the idea that then in the next year she'll loop. And that means she'll go to 3rd grade then and be teaching many of the same students that she has currently, she will have currently in 2nd grade. So I think this will be good for the building, good for the district.
thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the achievement gap reduction contract.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Looking for a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Okay, Humke playground equipment.
First of all, we have a correction in that memo. I had some miscommunication with Keith, so this is totally my fault. I apologize. Hippo agreed to donate $10,000 over the next 4 years, so it's a total of $10,000.
$2,500 per year. Boy, they would have
I was hoping for
dropped
that.
over.
Yeah, darn it. But anyway, just so that's a correction. That was totally my error. I apologize for that. In your packet, I have the same pictures that we had at the last board meeting. Although at the bottom of each picture, I included the user capacity and the price of that design. We talked about it last month. We plan on funding it with Hippo money, and also there are some funds available in the Community Service Fund that would be perfect for the development of the playground equipment. So administration is recommending option 3, which is at a price of $76,705.
Is this going to be put in this summer?
That's what we're hoping for, yes. The playground, I mean, it's going to be closed anyway, so it would be a perfect time to take out the old equipment and put in the new. And I do believe it's a 6-week lead time, so
What are we doing for the mat?
we're going to have to do wood chips. We priced out the rubber pellets, and they were extremely expensive.
That's crazy. I mean, it's recycled tires. Wow.
I understand.
What about this, the solid mat? Is that,
That's even more expensive.
That's only 40,000.
I think it's a great opportunity with, the renovations and upgrades that we're doing at Humke to really, take that antiquated equipment out and give it a new look.
The current stuff's rather embarrassing, so I'm
Yeah.
100% behind it.
Motion, looking for a motion to approve.
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
aye.
And Brian, you want the contractors to bring that right over your yard, the one they're taking out? They're taking it out for free.
That's been an ongoing battle in my life as well.
She's not interested in being your
Won't be
front
having
yard.
a swing set to mow around my house.
Okay, motion approved. Looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Annual reevaluation of other OPEB.
Back in 2012, May 14th of 2012, the school board actually approved a new post-employment benefit, which I've attached for your review. They also agreed that we would review this on an annual basis to see if we should make any changes. In the memo, I have indicated what our family and single premiums are, which is the district's liability. It's 87.4% of the total premium. Just to get you an idea of how much the district's liability is for each of the family or single health insurance premium. Currently, the OPEB liability is capped at $13,000 for a family and $6,000 for a single, whereas the district's liability for 16-17 is $19,667.10 for a family and $8,950.04 for a single. Right now, there's only a handful of individuals that are even eligible to participate in the other post-employment benefit. So at this time, we are recommending that we leave the post-employment benefit as is for 16-17 and review it again in June of 2017. Also, you can see in the memo that the OPEB expenses have decreased significantly from 12-13 to current. 12-13 was $778,116. We are projecting for the 17-18 budget, excuse me, of $232,597. Without this change back in 2012, instruction would look very different today. So this was an excellent move. Financially.
So this is just an update for us, we don't have to,
Well, I think we should approve,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. It really affects essentially our retirees. So any questions on this?
Healthcare costs continue to go up.
Yeah. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Yep.
Review of wellness policy number 8510.
Part of the healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010 requires that the district review the wellness policy on an annual basis. We just had our school nutrition review this past spring, and one of the questions that they asked is, when is the board going to review the wellness policy? So they are looking for it, although we won't have another review for another 5 years, but it is good to look at our wellness policy just to get an idea if we're following it and if there are any changes that need to be made. We have a wellness committee that actually goes through the wellness policy, and Diana was kind enough to create this wellness policy in a nutshell, the last 2 pages of your packet, that basically explains what's going on with these 10 pages of wellness policy. So our wellness committee has been sporadic this past year. We really have to get into the habit of meeting on a monthly basis, or at least every other month basis, to go over this again, just to see how we're doing with our wellness policy. So in 16-17, Terry and I are going to be diligent in meeting with our wellness committee. I don't think we need to approve it. It just needs to see that the board has been in the agenda that they were reviewing it. So
It's a good policy. We've worked with the county on it as well.
A lot of information.
yes,
Thank you for
I
the
like the nutshell, Diana.
nutshell. Yeah.
it's good.
That is.
I love it.
That brings us to preliminary budget approval.
Yes. Every year we have to, in June, we have to pass a preliminary budget to authorize spending for July 1st of 2017. In your packet, I have developed the preliminary budget. I just want to go through the memo a little bit, just so everybody has understanding of what exactly how I created the preliminary budget. Right now, in June for the 16-17 budget, although the first day of the new year is July 1st, 2016, we know probably less than 5% of what we need to know to create our budget. So what I did to create the preliminary budget is I took what was presented in February, was it February? February 2016 for Forecast 5. I basically took what they presented in February and I dumped it into the format that DPI wants to see for their preliminary budget. In the Forecast 5 model, general fund, the expenses actually exceeded the revenues by $38,487. So we're kind of starting out in the hole, but again, we know less than 5% of our numbers. So this is just our best guess. The special project funds, Fund 21 and 27, the revenues exceed expenses by $17,125, and that is Fund 21, which is our donation fund. Fund 27 has to remain a balanced fund. Debt service fund, the expenses exceed the revenues by $10,856, and I have mentioned this in the past where we have to budget on a fiscal year basis, but we actually pay expenses on we actually levy on a calendar year basis. So it's just a timing issue. So we're always going to have that little bit of difference in the debt service fund. The other capital projects fund, Fund 49, is what Ike and Todd have been presenting for the past couple of years. And it's a bond issue, so our expenses exceed our revenues by about $4 million. We plan on utilizing all of the project funds in 16-17. So we do have a fund balance in there that will play into the expenses. We're not expecting any more revenues except for the small amount of interest. In the community service fund, the expenses exceed the revenues in the community service fund by $54,484, and carryover funds will be utilized. I was going to include a revenue limit worksheet, but at this time it is so bare right now that it really doesn't make much sense. So as that gets filled in, I will be presenting the revenue limit worksheet and kind of explaining where the numbers are coming from and how they affect our budget. So I'm just asking for approval of the preliminary budget.
If I remember right, that capital projects fund, if we don't spend it in a timely manner, we lose it, is that correct?
We will get audited by the feds,
Yeah.
and we don't want that, so we will spend that.
So is it gonna come out
Oh, yeah.
zero?
Oh, you bet you will.
We want to hear that, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, preliminary budget approval, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passed. Okay, we're on to employment. Who wants to take over for employment?
Well, let's start out with Emily Burns. Who would like to talk a little bit about Emily?
That'll have to be you, Clint.
We saw Emily teach here. She's really excited about what she does, and she really fits well with our mission and vision. And she really talks about, what's best for all students and moving forward and looking at some ways that she can tie in literacy and stuff. And we saw that in her interview too. She had a performance interview and
She actually tied it into her teaching. Yeah, it was cool.
yeah, that was pretty neat. Yeah, you were there, Terry. You saw that too.
Her strengths, as one of the reference I checked in her current employment, reaching really well, reaching the kids that are don't have a lot of natural ability.
At the margins, yeah.
Yeah, highly recommended from her current supervisor,
Where's she come from?
Westfield.
Fantastic.
That's Emily.
This will be her second year teaching.
Should we do all of them?
Let's do all of them and then we'll go.
Who'd like to talk about Angela? Piper.
Well, I can talk about Angie. So she is, she has been kind of in the area and on the radar screen for some time, and it works out very well that the timing was right. She has done a lot of work with Heidi Hartman, and Heidi's really been kind of a mentor for her. And so she comes highly recommended, and I think she will be a great addition to the first grade team.
And that Angela is replacing Karen on the resignations. How about Gerald?
Gerald is replacing Kristen Kanya for Nekoosa lead teacher. Gerald started in September after the year started in Adams. And from everybody I talked to down there, he had a pretty tough assignment, jumping in September after they had a couple weeks with a teacher that was there before him, and he had a pretty challenging class as well. Previous to that, he taught in Portage in the correctional institution down there, and then previous to that, he was in Michigan with 4th and 5th grade teaching, and he really spoke well about relating to the Native American population. He's got a half Native American son, and who's 18 and talking about the military and doesn't quite know yet, but he's got some really cool life experiences and he speaks really well about project-based learning and being able to step into that role. He met with Terry today, and he met with Kristen Kanya today because she is wanting to coach him on
Transition.
progression.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Patricia.
I can take Patty. So we interviewed for the band director position last week, I guess. Last week. Feels like a while ago.
Right,
Last week, yeah. And she is coming to us immediately from Cambridge, is where she's been in a long-term, one-year position. She's been a teacher in the Monroe School District, and then she'd also taught in Arkansas, not the Arkansas district, Arkansas, state of Arkansas. And then she also lived in Texas and taught in Texas for a period of time. She was in today looking at the band room. I don't know, did she come over to the middle school at all? You know her? So,
I wanted to see the carpet.
she was at the...
Way to go, Keith.
Think of the surprise and happiness she'll have.
Was replaced, yeah.
Yeah. She and her husband were in today, though, and they are very excited to move to the area. They are bringing with them a 4-year-old who will be registering for 4K, and she really, one of the things in the interview that came through, she's really looking for a place to settle, as far as make a home and and stay.
And I did have
So-
to assist Keith in stopping Bill Seipel from chasing her out the door.
Yeah, Bill was ready
after
to
the
run down after
interview.
her.
Yeah, that was cool to
We
hear.
were able to stop him.
They got him at the curb, didn't you?
Yeah.
I had-
So that's employment.
Very good. Looking for a motion to approve the employment of Emily Burns, Angela Piper, Gerald Ruffers, and Patricia Burgos. How did that?
Bourgeois.
Bourgeois.
Bourgeois. Boy, that's gonna be tough.
Probably Mrs. B is.
Yeah, maybe Mrs. R, or Mr. R too, I think.
What does he do? You said he came along. Is he moving?
What does her husband do? Or do you know?
He does editing work, is what she was telling me today.
Cool.
And so
He probably works from home,
So
right?
he can work at home.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly.
Like books? Or...
No, it sounds like a variety of different things, and he's in a barbershop quartet. Music is a very
Wow.
important part of their lives. In fact, that's
Wow.
part of how they met.
Cool.
He'll probably be here next month to
Singing.
recruit.
Where's
Yeah.
where's his barbershop quartet out of Canada?
We'll get something going there.
No, they were down in Austin,
Are you in,
Texas.
Brian?
That's where they-
There's a couple of barbershop quartets in
Pat sakes.
I have to
Keep it
find it out.
Keep it stay, keep them here.
Although by definition, they'll know how you add people to a quartet.
Well,
Brian, you are
Yeah, here we
it's
go.
more than just a quartet. It's also a barbershop group. You can get into a quartet. by-
Motion on the floor to approve the hiring of these individuals.
I so move.
Second.
Learning center.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you guys for the efforts in interviewing and getting these people in. Retirements.
You wanna talk about Leanne?
Leon he's had some health challenges recently, and he was actually going to retire at the end of the summer, I believe.
Yeah.
But he was kind of pushed into it, I would say, with his medical challenges, and he spoke to the AMS staff, and he's going to be missed at that spot. He was always kind of a bright face coming in at 3 o'clock to
Christmas
do
lights,
something,
Christmas music. the
little
whole
music
thing,
playing. Yeah,
Lit
I
up.
still have a CD of his. I gotta get back.
Oh yeah, I always enjoyed his music when I went in for chess club, or something. And we'd always have a talk. He'd always, how's it going? Well, him and I go way back.
Okay,
Way back.
retirement. Motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Resignations.
Chuck Stebbins?
Chuck, he had a career opportunity at WRPS, and he wanted to take that for a salary increase, and it's an opportunity for him to move up as well. And he emotionally spoke to the staff at AMS, and the kids sent him off with a clap out with everybody in the hallway and giving him high fives and stuff, and you could see it really got to him. But just so you know, my neighbor is the son of one of the buildings and grounds people, and when the buildings and grounds director was over there at his house, I really let him have it, just so you guys know.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Motion.
Go do all of
Oh,
them.
let's do all of them, yes.
And Alyssa Tooley, she took a position in Verona.
It was close to her hometown, and it was a middle school position. It was basically her dream job to be close to home and just have a middle school band program.
And Karen Kaler?
Karen was with us for 1 year in first grade, and she accepted a position with Renaissance Learning doing some coaching work. And so that is what she will be doing. She did a nice job for us in her year with a group that presented challenges at times.
Very good. Well, motion to approve the resignations of Charles Stebbins, Alyssa Tooley, and Karen Kohler.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Donations?
Yep, donations.
So Brian and Cammie Loebner and family donated a tricycle for the AMS Special Education Department, backpack for kids, 2 boxes full of food from Sacred Heart, $50 from Sacred Heart Collection, $112.50 from the 51 Homemakers Club, $220 from the class of 1956.
1956. Motion to approve donations.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Consent agenda. Everybody had the consent agenda in their packets. If there aren't any questions regarding the consent agenda, I'd be looking for a motion to approve such.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed. We did it.
We did it. Future meetings, we do want to, I talked to Doug last night, and I think he emailed you as well, right? About a meeting? So we want to do a meeting on July 12th or the 14th. And what we would include then are the SLO building reviews, which are the school learning objectives, and then policy governance next steps. So for those 2 items, would the 12th or the 14th work best? Brian, that's probably hard for you to...
Are you talking July?
July.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in Nebraska.
Both days?
Oh, yes, I'm gonna be there a week.
Fly home?
14th is, oh, no, either, yeah, either one's
Even on the
fine.
8th, I won't be back till 17th or 18th. Or maybe I won't even come back till 6:30 on the 19th.
Good for you. Stay as long as you can,
My
right?
grandbaby's being born, I gotta go see him or her.
So how about that next week? July 26th or 28th?
I'm on vacation.
No good.
How about the week of July 11th?
No,
Well, Dave is gonna be gone. He's leaving
When do you leave?
I leave on the 8th,
What about the 21st?
that might work.
for me, July, no.
No, okay.
June?
Doesn't work for me?
Navajo.
Well, then we're gonna have to move to the last...
We're on summer break here, Terry.
No, we got some things to get done.
How about June? I'm gonna be gone that week.
14th.
Wow, first week in August?
I don't know if we can wait that
What
long.
day?
Yeah, we really can't, can we?
Can't wait that long for these
No.
things.
Well,
If we can't all be here, we can't all be here.
Yeah.
We have to have a quorum.
Yeah, if you need to do it that week of the,
What about the 7th before he leaves?
July 7th?
that would work.
doesn't work for me.
No.
The 12th and the 14th are good. The 19th, not the 21st.
19th,
And not
we
the whole
already
last
have a
week.
meeting.
What?
That's our
Oh, that's
regular
that's
meeting.
regular meeting, yeah.
21st doesn't work for you either?
No, I'm going to Navajo.
Well, for once.
Should we try the 21st, or you mind? Did you miss one of the policy governance meetings already?
No,
You were here.
I know what's going on.
So,
I'm wide
you
open.
missed one, right? 21st, should we do the 21st?
Sure. Let's do it.
Yep.
July 21st?
6:30?
Could we do it 6?
We can try.
July 21st at 6. Good.
And we're gonna look at policy governance and SLOs.
Correct.
How far are we gonna get into the other items?
Well, seclusion, we gotta do the district administrator evaluation. I'm thinking that can tie into that somehow with the SLO reviews. But strategic plan on a page, we will have to look at that. And after our work at SAIL, we'll have some good ideas. So,
We can look at that in the July meeting.
yeah.
Uh,
One of the questions I do have though is, as we look at policy governance, I question whether or not we should be approving the parent-student handbooks. I mean, certainly the board should see them. I don't know, how do you feel about that? But it's on here, this handbook approval and parent-student handbook. The handbook approval is our staff handbook, right? And we've approved that.
No, isn't that the?
Is that the high school?
With the parent-student handbook.
That's the high
All three
school.
buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we can do that. I don't think the policy governance is going to affect that parent-student handbook.
Okay.
I think it's important for timeliness that we get that out there and finished before, we don't want to be looking on that in August.
Co-curricular code should be approved then, because by the time the August meeting comes around, we'll already be, high school will already be into fall sports season.
So you're saying July for?
Yep.
For this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it possible to get
Crisis.
the handbooks ahead of time?
Crisis guidelines should be approved then too, but there's no changes other than the cosmetic things of people names and phone numbers.
So July, we've got quite a bit in July then.
And Nexus is coming back.
Access, okay. Handbook approval. And the handbook must be the staff handbook. That's what shows up every year. So we'll do that one in July.
We just looked at that.
We did, but we've got one
Very good.
one addition.
Okay.
And then CWSA Charter School Annual Report, do we do that in August?
We did it in July last year.
July's going to be a long meeting.
If we want to push it up, it doesn't matter. We can do it either one.
We can do it in August. Unless it affects how you're going to do it. I don't think it will. Very good.
No, that's okay. Either one.
Good. So we got a nice agenda for next month. Thank you, guys.
And we have some homework to do. Doug shared that he had gotten some information from John on the governance, or
John, yes.
Okay. Is that something the board should look at, or the board members should look at prior to that meeting?
Yeah, he can share it with you. I think what he's going to do is he's going to try to add some Nekoosa stuff to it,
Okay,
to put a Nekoosa,
look at it?
yeah.
Okay.
And then he can share that with
We can
you.
have it before the meeting, I guess,
Yeah.
that we got.
Sure. Good.
Okay, we are at that point where I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Brian, that's today.